The hissing click of the hatch sounded like a starting gun. Dr. Maya Hernandez shot through the node from Unity into the Japanese Kaibo module, thighs pressed together, toes pointed, trying to keep her personal items from drifting out of the Velcro lined pouch on her calf. Directly behind her floated Dr. Sergei Volkov, his expression fixed somewhere between practiced calm and competitive determination. 6 minutes late, he said in his clipped English. If you cannot be on time, you cannot be on beat. Maya's jaw tightened. We lost Q band downlink. I had to reset the router by Destiny's rack. She pulled herself to the handrail near the forward bulkhead, deliberately slow, as if to prove she wasn't rushing for anyone, especially the smug, broad-shouldered cosmonaut who had spent 2 weeks correcting her orientation math in front of the whole crew. Cabo's long cylindrical volume had been cleared for the day. Racks folded, experiments stowed, laptops velcroed shut along the walls. Spotlights borrowed from the European Columbus module floated in three-point arrangement, their beams crisscrossing like spears of pale gold. Commander Nigeri Banda had converted the lab into an orbital proscenium, and Maya had to admit it looked cinematic. A stage in the sky. The commander's face appeared on a tablet tethered to the aft handrail. You two have the slot at 18:00 Zulu tomorrow, no slippage. Earth wants 4 minutes of pure serenity, live streamed, synchronized to that compilation track from the Peace Orchestra. If you need rehearsal footage, start rolling now. Then the screen went dark, and they were alone. For 50 years, international cooperation aboard the ISS had been a symbol of resilience. Lately, even that symbol felt brittle. Violence had flared on 3 continents, peace negotiations were fracturing, and public morale was a threadbare thing. Someone at UNESCO had decided humanity needed a single, unspoken gesture from orbit to remind them of unity. And a zero-gravity ballet, recorded where politics officially stopped at the hatch, was the gesture selected. It sounded uplifting in press releases. In practice, Maya thought, it was a nightmare. She and Serkey had spent their prior mission weeks trading barbs over payload priorities. Now they were being asked to dance together wordlessly and beam it to 8 billion critics. Serkey pushed off the bulkhead, rotating face down until his boots kissed the opposite wall. Years of cosmonaut circus training made the motion look effortless. First position, he announced, then glanced at her. Well, Maya activated her lapel mic. Computer, cue rehearsal track, low volume. Panethnic strings seeped into the module 1 part, Andean charango 1 part Ravel. She inhaled, feeling her core tighten as she flipped backward, fingertips grazing the ceiling. They had 30 hours. The first pass lasted 60 seconds before they collided. Sergei's elbow smacked her shoulder. Both spun like misaligned gears until they caught separate handrails. Your trajectory was wrong, he said. Your center of mass is twice mine, she snapped back. Maybe you adjust for that. He grimaced. In microgravity, mass doesn't matter, momentum does. Calculate vector. Maya exhaled through her nose, counting silently. She'd grown up stealing practice time in a school auditorium while her janitor father finished night shifts. Ballet had taught her grace, but orbital mechanics ruled here, and Sergei Fidi in propulsion, ex-paratrooper, knew momentum the way she knew point technique. She opened her tablet and sketched a quick diagram. 2 bodies, converging, pivoting around an imaginary axis. We meet here, she said, tapping. I hook my left ankle behind your right knee. You push off with 35 newtons, enough to send us into a corkscrew. He scanned the drawing, then his lips curled upward. Left ankle? Risky. Life's risky. She erased and redrew the arrow. 4 rotations, then separation at timestamp 68 seconds. You drift to camera B, catch the vertical bar, and I spiral to mid-submarine. Miradiadi, he muttered, a universal whether in awe or skepticism she couldn't tell. They rehearsed again, this time in silence except for labored breath and muffled thuds. Without gravity's anchor, every subtle pulse of muscle translated into meters of drift. Sergei's legs were too stiff. Maya's shoulder caught an antenna mount. Their joined spin drifted off axis and nearly tangled in a power cable. At 20 minutes, Sergei's stopwatch beeped. "Water break," he said. She pulled a silver pouch from the supply net and tore the seal with her teeth. Droplets formed lustrous spheres, wobbling like miniature planets. 4 of them escaped, drifting toward the ventilation grills. He snared each with a practiced swipe and squeezed them back inside. "Gracias," she said despite herself. "Pos lo está," he answered, then cleared his throat. "When I was a boy, Bolshoi dancers visited Star City. I tried to copy them on trampoline." A faint smile. "I broke a railing. My commander made me run laps around the G-force centrifuge." Maya chuckled. "Better than my first recital. I slid off stage because my point shoe lost its elastic." Their eyes met. For a moment, rivalry cracked, revealing ordinary human embarrassment. Microgravity had a way of stripping armor as thoroughly as it stripped weight. "Again?" he asked. "Again." 4 hours later, bruises blossomed along Maya's ribs like nebulae. Sergei nursed a swollen wrist from catching himself on an equipment bracket. They floated, shoulder to shoulder, near the cupola's central window. Earth glowing half-lit beneath them, a pearl wrapped in ink. "You know they're calling this the Blue Marble broadcast back home?" Maya said softly. "Someone's idea of poetic branding." "Da. A children's planet fragile as glass." She watched the pale swirl of a cyclone unfurling over the Indian Ocean. The world looked symmetrical, balanced, nothing like the fractious news bulletins they skimmed each morning over powdered eggs. "Can an 8 billion viewer dance actually fix anything?" she asked. Sergei thought a long time. "Not fix," he said, "but maybe remind. My babushka used to say, words can lie, movement cannot. When you dance, the body shows truth." Maya turned, surprised by the tenderness in his voice. Rivalry felt increasingly irrelevant up here. They were two frail creatures suspending themselves against a cosmos, trying to deliver a lullaby to a frantic species. "Let's try the diagonal pass again," she said. "No more bruises." He raised his uninjured hand like a solemn vow. "No more bruises." Morning, if one could call any 90-minute orbital dawn a morning, brought complications. A coronal mass ejection had launched from the sun, and the forecast predicted radiation spikes within 16 hours. Mission Control recommended the performance be advanced by 3 orbits. Just in case they had to shelter behind water tanks later, Commander Banda's voice crackled over the comm, calm but stern. "You two go live at 13:21 Zulu. That's 7 hours from now. I'll handle cameras, the rest of the crew will monitor audio. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am," Maya and Sergei replied in unison. When the channel closed, panic flickered across both faces, unhelpful, but honest. Their routine needed polishing, lighting cues, final blocking. 7 hours might as well be 7 minutes. Maya cinched her hair into a tighter bun. "Run the sequence top to bottom. Minimal talk." Sergei nodded, strapping his swollen wrist into a soft brace fashioned from Velcro and foam padding. Gaze steady, he floated to entry point alpha. Music rolled, a heartbeat drum, faint, merging into a plaintive flute. Maya propelled from the aft wall, feet gliding inches above Sergei's chest. He caught her ankle exactly where planned, pivoting them into rotation. 1, 2, 3 turns. "Scarino," she tucked, speared forward, fingers brushing LED strips that served as stars. He stretched backward, intercepting her hand midsummer. Their bodies created a living gyroscope. At 90 seconds, a loud rip tore the air. His wrist brace shredded. He recoiled, trajectory skewed. Maya tried to compensate, but they clipped the overhead payload lattice. Sarah yelped. She grabbed his suit loop to halt his momentum. Silence. Blood droplets, ruby bright, emerged from his forearm, gliding like meteors. "Hold still." Maya pressed a gauze pad against the cut. then used her thigh to anchor them against a wall. "It's shallow," he hissed. "We have no time." "We make time." She secured the bandage with medical tape. Hands gentle, movements precise. Up close, she could see silver strands in his hairline, the soft lines around his eyes. No longer a rival, just a man trying to dance through pain for the sake of strangers. "Spasibo," he whispered. Their foreheads almost touched as they steadied near the air duct. The music loop had stopped, but Maya still felt its phantom pulse. Without thinking, she started humming the melody. Sergei's lips parted in recognition. He hummed the counterthrum. The harmony formed in the narrow space between them, vibrated through aluminum walls, and sank into Maya's bones. This, she realized, was the essence the broadcast needed, the unforced, wordless accord that arrived only when ego surrendered. They reworked the routine, pairing flourishes, emphasizing moments of mutual support, handholds, mirrored spins, shared breathing. Commander Banda floated through twice, adjusting light angles, frowning at the fresh bruise on Maya's cheek. "Looking better," she said, though fatigue etched her brow. "Clock's ticking." At -1 hour, Maya and Sergei slipped into midnight glue flight polos with no nation patches. Only the embroidered silhouette of Earth. Unity before nationality, the wardrobe department's subtle directive. They strapped tiny inertial sensors to wrists and ankles. Ground controllers would overlay live particle effects, turning their paths into luminous ribbons on billions of screens. Somewhere below, technicians loaded the augmented reality filters. School children gathered in auditoriums. Ceasefire negotiators scheduled recesses to watch. Expectations piled up like an invisible atmospheric drag. Maya's hands trembled. She glanced at Sergei, who was breathing slow, disciplined breaths. He caught her eye and raised 2 fingers, the cosmonaut sign for all systems go. She mirrored the gesture, inhaled, and let the tremor pass out on the exhale. T-10 minutes. In Kibo, lights dimmed to simulated twilight. The overhead lamps glowed sapphire. Floor strips pulsed amber. 6 cameras hung in gyroscopic mounts. Commander Banda's voice came soft over local loop. "Q-track, stand by." Maya and Sergei floated parallel, 9 feet apart, knees bent, palms forward. The opening cord vibrated through hull plates. "Go." She pushed off first, sliding along an invisible plane parallel to Earth's curve. Sergei rotated 90 degrees, meeting her trajectory. Their fingertips brushed, parted, hovered. Audience on Earth saw 2 bodies carving arcs of light, ribbons trailing, set against a live video feed of their planet rotating through the cupola window beyond. Percussion rose. Sergei grabbed a handrail, slingshotting toward her. She pivoted midair, offering a forearm. He caught it, using her as fulcrum to invert feet overhead. They were a Mobius strip, no beginning, no end. Gravity had no vote here. Only trust did. Halfway mark. The corkscrew sequence. Sergei's injured wrist wavered, but held. He hooked her ankle. They spun, a double helix of human intent. Maya closed her eyes, sensing each choice he made by the subtlest tension in tendons and cloth. Release. She parted, spiraled outward, arms set wide like solar panels. The music softened to a lone cello. She drifted backward until the world filled her peripheral vision, clouds luminous, ocean ultramarine. Sergei reached for her from the opposite side, silhouette rimmed by spotlight. Cameras captured the moment their palms met across the void, 2 small shapes holding a sphere of life between them. In living rooms below, commentators fell silent. Final sequence. Convergence into the center, slow rotation, then a shared kneel on the midsimor wall, an impossible prayer unfurling in 3 dimensions. Their heads bowed, foreheads nearly touching. They let the last note fade into Fan's gentle hum. Commander Banda whispered, "Cut." Transmission closed. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then applause crackled through every speaker. the rest of the crew cheering from different modules, ground control clapping so hard the microphones clipped a tidal wave of human exhalations stitched across continents. Maya's lungs burned, tears floated loose from her lashes. Sergei reached out, palming them gently like fragile gemstones, guiding them to a wipe cloth stowed in his pocket. "Nice recovery on the corkscrew," she managed. "Your vector was perfect," he answered, voice rough. They looked at each other, rivals no longer, and burst into exhausted laughter. 2 hours after the broadcast, preliminary numbers arrived. Record-shattering viewership, social feeds flooded with the hashtag #OrbitHarmony. Reports trickled in of spontaneous ceasefire extensions, crowds dancing in public squares, toddlers imitating weightless twirls in living room blankets. Cynics called it a novelty, optimists a turning point. No one could yet measure the half-life of inspiration, but for tonight at least, the planet breathed as one. In the galley, the crew shared rehydrated pineapple and a pouch of ceremonial champagne, sent up months prior for some unspecified historic occasion. Commander Banda tapped the nozzle, careful to squeeze tiny bubbles that floated in glistening chains. "To not crashing into each other," she toasted. "To bruises that teach," Maya added. "To the dance," Sergei finished. They clinked pouches like crystal flutes. Maya tasted the tart fizz, eyes locked on a monitor replaying their ballet. In augmented reality overlay, their paths formed a luminous infinity symbol, one continuous line created by two minds agreeing to let disagreement go. The realization struck her like sunrise. Harmony wasn't the absence of conflict. It was the art of navigating conflict with grace. Sergei drifted beside her, shoulder touching hers in companionable silence. "After we land," he said, "you will teach me real ballet, on Earth." She laughed. "And you show me how to not break my ribs on a trampoline." "Deal." They watched their holographic selves glide and twine once more, impossibly serene, weightless as hope. Below them, the blue marble spun on, ordinary and miraculous, awaiting the next reminder that unity was possible. And somewhere in the darkness, between stars, two rival specialists, no, two partners, prepared to sleep, confident that when words failed again, they would know exactly how to move.